Hello and welcome to Canada's Digital Farm Show. This is a new way of bringing you some of the latest technology. Giddy Jokius, who started this, would be so amazed and pleased with how we are doing this. And we want to thank the Baling companies that are participating, AGCO, Claas, Kubota, John Deere, for embracing this new technology of how we get information to you. Hi again, we're at Canada's Digital Farm Show again, and with me right now is Dan Gunning from AGCO. Dan, you got a pretty big area. Where are you from and what part of Ontario are you servicing?
I'm from Belleville, Ontario. My title is a product specialist. I assist dealers from Pembroke, Ontario, all the way up to Essex, Ontario, along the 401 corridor and as far north as Earlton.
So Dan, I appreciate the fact that you're here. We could have marketing people, but I like to be talking to the people who are actually, using this equipment. And we want to talk about balers. And the baler that is here is the RB, round bale, 4160P, which is ProTech. So I want to ask you some things about this baler. Dan, how many bales an hour can you make with this baler?
As a rule, we say 55 bales an hour. We've seen higher than that. You can essentially go as fast as you want. The limiting factor is going to be the wrapping and how much wrap you put on.
So you're going to bale about a bale a minute?
Approximately a bale a minute.
So what crops can you bale with this?
You can bale anything you can cut. We can bale corn stalks, we can bale straw, we can bale dry hay, silage hay, sorghum. We can bale anything.
So how do you monitor the density of the bales? Like, is it fairly complicated, or what do you have to do?
No, the density of the bales changed inside the monitor inside the tractor. It's just a push of a button, anywhere from 0 to 10. We also have a soft core option if you wanted to. Doing dry hay, you can use that. Silage bales, we don't recommend it.
Dan, when I was a kid on the farm, we had to do a lot of greasing on the baler, and I think there was something like 44 grease points. And if I missed one of them, we had to go back and try to figure out, how do you lubricate, how do you grease this baler?
We probably have more than 44 grease points on these balers now, but the nice feature that we've added is centralized grease banks. So we have a grease bank here and one on the other side of the baler, and that's the majority of your grease fittings. This reservoir is an automatic chain oiler that cycles on a predetermined time on the baler.
So it's not by the number of bales, but it's by the
You can change how often it runs. You can run on time, or you can run on the cycles of the end gate.
So one of the questions I sort of asked, but not directly, what percent moisture can you bale with this baler off crop? You
can bale anything from 5 to 10% moisture up to what we're seeing today is probably closer to 70% moisture. And essentially anything you can fit in the tailgate, in the pickup, we can bale.
One of the issues when I was a kid with the old baler, and I won't tell you which brand it was knives. Tell me about the knives on this baler.
So we've got the extra cut knife system on this baler. We can run multiple combinations from 0, 8, 9, or 17 from a push of a button in the cab. Or if you had a certain scenario where you required a custom amount of knives, you would have to take the knives out and install some of these blanks here inside the baler. So
how do you, it was not fun sharpening the knives. How do you sharpen the knives on here?
You do have to remove the knives and take them to the shop or sharpen them yourselves, but they do have to be removed from the baler to be sharpened.
Dan, one of the features of this balers that I like is the wrapping. Can you just explain in your terms what we're doing here as we wrap?
So from the beginning to the end, we have the 4160 baler that can make a 60-inch bale. Today we're only making a 40-inch bale. So we would travel down the windrow, make the pre-desired bale. It would apply the net wrap automatically, and then it would discharge the bale onto the transfer table here at the back. That would transfer the bale onto the wrapping table, and as that wrapping table receives the bale, it'll rotate the bale and the wrapping device will wrap around it.
So the bale has got the wrap already, so we don't have to worry about it losing shape by the time you get it to put the film wrap around it.
No, that's correct. It's never been handled other than the transfer table.
So where do you store the extra rolls of wrap? Is there some place here on the baler?
You can store extra rolls of wrap. The film goes on here. There's 6. You can store 6 rolls on either side.
So Dan, the 722 Fendt has got a lot of horsepower. How many horsepower does it have, by the way?
It's 220 horsepower engine horsepower. It's 185 on the PTO.
How many horsepower do we need for this baler?
This baler, we recommend 140 horsepower only because it's heavy and we require power to run the knife system, run the rotor and knife system, and it takes hydraulic power to operate the wrapper.
So in my mind, and I'm not dealing with tractors, that's a very reasonable number of horsepower to be able to have a baler of this magnitude. So Dan, I didn't tell you I was going to ask this, but what do you really like about this baler? Like, you use it, and if I was a city guy and you said I was out baling, and then I'd say, well, what's so special about this baler?
The nice features about this baler is it put you in the cab, and as long as you follow the instructions on the screen, it tells you when to stop, it tells you when to eject the bale if you had it set to manual, and it tells you when to go again. So as long as you can follow instructions, you can operate this baler.
Thank you very much, Dan. This is Patrick Lynch from Canada's Digital Farm Show, talking with Dan Gunning, and we really appreciate you and AGCO's participation in this show. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Canada's Digital Farm Show, and now I'm with Gary Klein of GJ's Harvest Center. First of all, Gary, thanks for driving the baler and being with us today. I got a few questions to ask you about the Claas 5300. When you think of the Claas 5300, Gary, if you've only got a few, say a minute to talk about this baler, what are you going to tell your customers about? What are the first things that jump into your mind?
And that the baler is a very heavy baler. It's got features that some of the other balers don't have, which is the breech and pre-chamber, the power feed system, as well as the adjustable hydraulic pre-chamber and a hydraulic driven pickup.
Okay, Gary, the power feeding system of Claas, they're very proud of it and should be. Can you just briefly tell us what the power feeding system is on the 5300?
So the power feeding system is a feed rig that is right behind the pickup, and it feeds the bale chamber on demand, and it's controlled by sensors. So we can control it either automatically, or we can control it by settings on the computer. So we can have thin slices and have a heavier bale, or thick slicers and the bale is a little bit lighter.
So tell us about the density. How do you control the density, and what goes into controlling the density?
The nice part on this new baler is we can control the density automatically, and if you adjust it automatic, put the monitor on automatic, it makes the nicest bale possible.
Gary, the Claas 5300 has a weighing system. Can you just briefly describe what this weighing system is?
Yeah, so it'll weigh, you can weigh the bale and record it, so you know exactly what you're pumping out the back. That is an option. You don't have to order it that way, but this baler was ordered with everything on it.
So you said recorded. Where is it recorded? How is it recorded?
That'll be recorded in the monitor.
Gary, when I was a kid and we plugged the baler, it was about an hour long, and some different words were used that I normally didn't hear Dad using. So what happens now should you plug this baler?
So when we plug this baler and we go on a high speed and full RPM, we slow the RPM down of the baler. It'll open the drop floor at a low idle. It'll unplug the baler, rev the baler back up. The drop floor goes back up, and we're up and running in less than a minute.
I wish I had that when I was a kid. Gary, that drop floor has the knives in it. Tell me how many knives are with this baler, and what do farmers normally purchase?
So we can get this baler in three ways. We can get it without knives. We can get it with 25 knives or 51 knives.
Why would somebody use the 51 knives?
The 51 knife is used for chicken farmers for the straw, so there's less chopping to be done when they're spreading the straw in the barns.
So that begs the next question. What type of material do you or can you bale with the 5300?
We can bale almost anything from straw to dry hay to wet hay that we have to wrap. So it's almost like in the bunker silo.
I just want to go back to the pickup again. How wide is the pickup?
And the pickup on this baler is 92.5 inches wide.
Isn't that a little bit excessively wide? Why so wide?
Because the combines have bigger and bigger headers, so we can pick up big windrows and keep the baler full.
Tell us a little bit about your tying, the knotter system. First of all, how many knotters are there, and what type of knot does it make?
It's a single knot system, and we use 6 knotters.
Okay, I did see some information suggesting that the single knot is, significantly stronger than some of the double knots. One thing that we just talked about in passing was the warranty. Tell me about the warranty on the 5300.
The warranty, a regular warranty is 1 year, but if would be a manufacturer defect, even after warranty is up, Klaus will definitely back it up.
That's good. I know these machines are supposed to work without any problems, but sometimes things happen. How many horsepower, Gary, do we need for the Klaus 5300?
The 5300, we're going to say about 2.25. If you have a little bit more, it probably helps so you can drive faster.
So how fast have you seen the 5300 driven?
We were in a light straw crop. We were trying to plug the machine, and at that point we were doing 25 mile an hour to plug it.
Now, you said 25 mile an hour. Do you mean kilometers an hour or miles?
No, that was 25 miles.
Holy man, you're going to get a speeding ticket there, Gary. So, yeah. Gary, we've covered a lot of features about the 5300. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that we should be talking about?
The one thing that we have now is the automatic pressure control system. If you put it on automatic, we briefly talked about it before. It controls the bale density automatically, and you're going to get an awesome bale.
Okay, so this is Gary Klein and Patrick Lynch for Canada's Digital Farm Show. And Gary, we want to thank you and Klaus for being part of this digital demonstration, and good luck in the rest of the season. Thank you very much, Gary.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Welcome back to Canada's Digital Farm Show, and with me now is Julia Romanoli. And Julia, today we want to talk about John Deere's 460M, and pulling the 460M is the 6175M John Deere. How many horsepower does this tractor have, Julia?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a little cheat sheet for looking at those decals on the tractors. The 6 on the front represents the family of tractors. So it's a 6 family tractor. And the following 3 are the rated horsepower. So that's a quick way to figure out the horsepower. So it's 175 rated horsepower, and it has 141 rated PTO power, that 6175M.
This looks like a lot of tractor for the 460M baler. Do we need that many horsepower or PTO horsepower? How many PTO horsepower do you normally suggest for this baler?
Yeah, that's a good question. So with a pre-cutter, the 460M, we recommend a minimum of 85 PTO horsepower. And if it does not have a pre-cutter, for that 460M, we recommend 65 PTO horsepower. So I did mention it has 141, so there's definitely a lot of tractor there. It's always important, though, to consider the topography of where you're going to go in. If we're in really hilly environment, we need some more horsepower, and also tractor weight. So it's better to be safe for sure in those environments. But overall, it's a good matchup today for this demo, the 6175M.
Okay, Julia, we're going to start at the front of the baler. Just tell us a little bit about the pickup on this baler, the features of this pickup.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, this pickup on this baler, it's 2.2 meters or just over 7.2 feet in width. And on the 460M, we have options to have the Mega Wide Plus or the Mega Wide HC Squared, which would be our high capacity in cutting when we have a pre-cutter configuration. So overall, one of the neat features of our Mega Wide Plus pickup would be our industry exclusive fast pitch augers that we have on our primary rotor, and they really help to move that crop along and feed it into the bale chamber, really preventing any kind of wrapping or stalling of that crop.
So that comes to the next one. How do you control the density of the bale?
That's a good question. So the density control system, it actually uses what we call hydraulic bale tensioning to control the density. And this really provides a uniform density throughout the entire bale. This uses two pairs of cylinders, one that controls the gate, opening it up, and the other that controls that bale density. Now, to be able to make some adjustments to that, we have a variable core kit that is included on this 460M, and this allows us to adjust that from the BaleTrack Pro monitor, or if it's a premium baler, the Isobus display. How this tractor baler automation is going to work, there's two levels. The first level, the baler is going to open and close that gate automatically for you once that tie cycle is complete. So it's one less thing you need to worry about. And the second level, the tractor, when it has what we call our infinitely variable transmission, or if it's a 7R and it has an E23 transmission, the baler is going to command the tractor to a stop. And that's going to allow that operator to be able to engage that cycle.
So, Julia, a unique feature is the accumulator. Can you just explain, the benefits of the accumulator and how it works?
Yeah, the accumulator is pretty neat addition to that baler. So it's something that really allows us to reduce our bale retrieval time by 50%. And that also works by really strategically placing those bales. So a couple really key things is the bale retrieval time reduction. And the other thing is when you think about overall distance traveled in the field, it can reduce that by 74% with this accumulator. So how it's going to work is once you make one bale, it's going to shift it over to the side. You make another, it's going to shift it to the side. And it allows you to, while that third bale is being made in the chamber, you can actually drop those three bales in one spot. So overall, when you think about driving on that precious crop, and this is going to help you really in reducing any kind of regrowth damage that's due to a lot of that traffic in that field.
What do you really like about this baler that we haven't touched on yet?
That's a good question. You've definitely covered some good topics. There's something that's pretty cool we haven't touched on yet, and it's called B-Wrap. And B-Wrap is something that's an industry exclusive to John Deere, and it allows you to store that bale outdoors, but while preserving a large degree of the feed that's in that bale. So something that we'll see is with regular net wrap bales, you can see a 10% reduction in the dry matter of that bale over time. And that B-Wrap is going to just reduce that by 2%. So you're really preserving 98% of that bale. That's something that's really neat that depending on your operation, you may not have the storage capacity to be able to store those, and maybe you're leaving those net wrap bales outside today, but you're seeing that you're peeling away quite a bit of that bale just due to spoilage. So that's something that's quite cool that I like about the baler for sure.
What type of bales, like what type of crops or material can you put through the 460M?
Yeah, good question. So with the M, you can do dry hay, you could do silage, and you also have that pre-cutter configuration, like I mentioned. So with the Zero Series, across the lineup, there really is a baler and a configuration for every operation. But between dry hay, silage, and with that pre-cutter being able to chop up that crop, there's lots of options that you can run through it.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. This has been Julia and Patrick, and this is going back to you from Canada's Digital Farm Show. Again, Julia, thank you, and John Deere for being part of this demonstration. Have a good day.
Thanks, Patrick. It's been fun.
Welcome again to Canada's Digital Farm Show, the baler demonstration. And with me now is Travis Group. Thank you very much, Travis, and Kubota for being here. You're the product specialist for hay tools in Canada. So what does that mean? How big an area do you have? What do you have to do?
That's right, Pat. So I am the product specialist for hay tools for all of Canada. So I deal mainly with the factories on introducing product and having the right promotional equipment for Canada.
Well, we certainly want to thank you and appreciate the fact that you're part of this digital presentation. However, we want to be talking a little bit about balers, and in the background is the MF-152. Just a point, how many horsepower do we have here, Travis?
Yeah, Pat. So this is an M7, a Kubota M7 152, 150 being 150 horsepower, 2 being the second generation. This particular tractor here is a deluxe. So that means it's we kind of have a higher capacity hydraulic flow on it, but all the simplicity of manual valves. So a lot less electronic.
How many horsepower do we need for this baler?
So this is kind of the minimum tractor we want on it. Ideally, we'd have a 170 out here. We're looking at about 150 PTO horsepower for this baler to operate properly.
So Travis, we're going to walk down here a little bit towards the baler. And the first obvious question is, it's called a fast bale. Come on now. Why is it called a fast bale?
Well, why would you call it anything but fast bale? Because it is fast. It's,
how fast is it, Travis?
Well, a typical operator could get about 60 bales an hour. That's wrapped, Pat. That's not just baled, that's wrapped.
Baled and wrapped. That's pretty phenomenal, pretty awesome numbers. So part of balers is certainly the intake, and just tell me a little bit about your pickup and the intake on this baler.
Yeah, so a couple key features on this pickup is an 86-inch wide pickup. Gives us lots of capacity when we're picking up windrows. Has a 300 mil intake rotor that gives us good capacity into the machine, plus a 25 knife cutting system.
Part and parcel of baling is lubrication. So just show us where your lubrication system is and what does it consist of. Do you want to open it up?
Yeah, that's right, Pat. So this is a commercial, it was designed as a commercial baler. So what we have is we have an automatic oiling and greasing system built in. So the farmer doesn't have to do any, there's some daily maintenance, but these are focusing on the main chamber bearings and all the chains. So we make sure that all that stuff gets well lubed because it's rotating quite frequently.
So what determines how much lubrication and when it goes on?
So it simply works based on the rotation of the PTO. So as long as the baler's running, it's greasing. It doesn't matter if it's baling or just going down the headland with not baling anything.
So as long as things are going around, it's counting that.
Exactly. So as long as it's rotating, we're greasing.
Travis, I like this diagrams that you have here on the fast bale. And can you just explain to us with this diagram how the bales are made? What's going on?
Yeah, that's the beauty of this baler. It's hard to see what's going on, but this decal does a really good job of explaining how the machine works. So think of it basically as 2 balers built into one, along with a wrapper on the back. So we have a pre-chamber that makes about 2/3 the finished bale. Once that chamber is full, it transfers it to the back. It's not tied at that point. It's simply just transferred a pre-compressed bale. It moves it in the back. We finish off that 4x4 size bale, put the net on, and while we're putting the net on, we transfer back to the front.
So does the net go on here before it gets wrapped?
Yes, so we put either a net wrap on. There is also the option to put a film on film system, which allows us to, the film on film typically keeps the bale a little bit more together or a better shape. It also seals off better, so ends up creating a higher quality product at the end because it's well sealed.
Travis, just explain in layman's terms how the wrapper works.
So that's the other key thing of this machine is we have a wrapper on the back. It's got twin wrapping arms, so it gives us high capacity. That's kind of the limitation when it comes to these equipment is the wrapping. It needs to keep up. We can bale really fast. We've seen some pretty phenomenal numbers on baling. It's just the wrapping, you have some limitations on conditions and all that stuff. So, but that gives us that capacity to wrap those bales. Plus it's a nice tight package. So it is a big baler, but we can fit anywhere down the road in different gates just because it's such a small, short machine.
So how big of issue is it to go from wrapping to not wrapping and then back wrapping again?
So that's the beauty of it. You can run this machine, the wrapper will actually act as an accumulator. Yep. So you could actually have it grab one unwrapped bale on the back. When you have the bale finished in the main chamber, you can drop one and then the second, making pickup in the field a lot easier. So it is capable of doing dry hay. It was designed initially more for silage application, haylage applications, higher moisture crops. But we've run straw through this. We've run dry hay. It's quite capable. There's always a little bit of tweaking just to adjust the right settings to.
So you would have no problem making corn silage with this machine or haylage?
No, if you could feed it in the machine, we essentially could bale it. We could do hemp if it really came down to it. So lots of flexibility.
Travis, you know, I'm a communicator and not a baler. What did I not ask you about this baler? What do you wish that people knew about it?
So the one thing is everybody sees this as a complicated piece of equipment. But the huge thing about it is they've made it so user-friendly. So it's a matter of just driving down the field. There's no watching to make sure the baler's tied, grabbing the brakes to stop. It simply beeps at you to tell you that it's doing something. So the operator is able to focus on driving, you know, making sure the bales are made properly, whether he's dropping them on the headlands or he wants to drop them straight. All he has to do is focus on driving. He doesn't have to worry about what the baler's doing behind him. He's got a camera, so you can see at the back. You notice it's a big baler.
Yes.
We can't see out the back, so we put a camera there. When we're wrapping, if a film breaks or something, it'll give you an alert. You can decide whether to keep going, or you just go back, change them, go back to the cab, and keep wrapping. So it makes it a very easy process to...
So Travis, now I understand why it's logically called a fast bale.
Yeah.
So this is Patrick Lynch with Canada's Digital Farm Show. I want to thank Travis and Kubota for taking their time to be part of this show. So thanks again, Travis, too, and Kubota.
Thanks for having us, Pat.